When you create your own text areas or text pieces, you'll use your type tool, and you can either do one of two things. You can either just click and start typing, so I'll type in the word sample here, or I'm going to go ahead and start a new text area. I'm going to go ahead and click away real fast to the move tool and then back to the type tool. And if you click and define a box, you're going to have text that will wrap around in a certain area. We'll wrap around an area. Okay, you can kind of see how that works a little bit there. The main idea as far as changing and manipulate your text we need to talk about is it's all your features are going to be back up into that the sample area, or excuse me, the options area of the type tool. So highlight your text, if you can, and then up here you've got options for changing the basic color value. See, you've got your rainbow. You can pick things out of the rainbow to change the color. And another quick feature I wanted to show you is the warp tool. It's pretty cool. You click on this little T with the curved arrowhead under it, and you've got options for warping your text. And so you can do some pretty cool things, and you get to manipulate and control how much warpage and kind of the bend and arcs that you get out of the deal. There's several different styles you can choose from. So it's kind of fun to play around with. One other thing I guess we should mention is if you do have a text area like I had here before, let me go ahead and click into that particular section. You'll get a bounding box that will decide when that text is going to wrap around. So if you need to stretch things out and make a bigger paragraph area, you can manipulate this box. And it's different than using the free transform tool. It just basically changes that bounding area. So on occasion you might end up with one of these area boxes that don't show you all your text, but if you pull it down you can kind of see there may be more text hidden behind there if you have a lot of information. So that's the basic about the type tool. Let's show you a little bit more about kind of zooming around and magnifying your screen and using basically the hand tool and the zoom tool. One of my favorite features about Photoshop is a quick trick I learned about double clicking on the hand tool. So if you ever happen to need to zoom in and see your entire document, actually double clicking on this tool will zoom you into a pretty good view typically. The other view option you'll see is this magnifying or zoom tool. It has the ability to kind of isolate an area by, my favorite way to do it is to click, hold, and drag and define the area that I want to zoom into. So you can easily really zoom into a certain area, and in this case you can start to see all the pixels that make up this particular image because we zoomed in there so far. Now if you ever zoom in too far and get lost like we are here, you can always zoom out. The zoom tool does have an option to go backwards, and in fact the option key, if you hold that, will let you backpedal out. So if I hold the option key and I click, I can kind of step backwards. Or like I was showing you a second ago, if you double click on the hand tool, it zooms you all the way back out so you can see the entire screen. So that's one of my favorite areas, or ways to zoom in and out. Another thing, you should probably see there's some other options with this hand tool that you can fill the screen. You might, depending on the resolution of your file, you might get some different results on this, but fill screen, actual pixels, or print size. So these are kind of handy ideas too. And you can always change the view of your artboard or your window here as well. The last thing we should probably mention on that is, a lot of students, and myself included, start off using these zoom tools by just clicking into an area, and it does work. But you'll find, I think it's a much more efficient way. If you really want to target a particular spot, just go ahead and, like I was showing you before, click, hold, and drag and define the area you want to zoom into, and you'll get a pretty good look of what you're after. And then again, that one trick again is double click on that hand tool, and you're back out to the full screen. I believe that the zoom tool also has a similar feature to that as well. If you double click on the zoom tool, you'll be back out. So that's pretty much what I wanted to show you about zooming in, moving around your screen. Oh, you know what I should do too is if I zoom in there and show you something, you get zoomed in too far. The hand tool, the other major reason you want to use the hand tool is just to move your document. So you got the right zoom level, but you want to move to a different portion of your screen. That will function this way. So it's a pretty good way to go. So that's pretty much all we want to talk about with those tools. Let's see what's next. Let's talk shapes. Shapes is an area like this big red box I have in the background of my text that I used to kind of skip over and wait till we got into Photoshop. But I think we're going to start teaching this to you a little bit sooner than later. And you basically have some different tools down towards the bottom to create and define different basic shapes. The part that's a little bit unusual about this, I'm going to show you this shape that I've already created. It creates two things for you. Your layers are going to look kind of different. It gives you a base color that's going to hold the color value for that shape, and then the shape itself is contained in another kind of little compartment. So that's when you create one of these shapes, you're going to get kind of two parts. You get the basic color, and then you get the shape, the kind of the outline that is going to control it. So let's see if I can make another one here real fast. Here's an ellipse tool that'll make kind of oval shapes, or if you hold the shift key, you can make perfectly round circles. So those tools can be pretty helpful. Now, if you ever need to change the color that you created, you can double click on the color value in the layers area, and it should bring up the color picker for you, so you can change that base color to anything you want. So shapes are pretty cool. You're going to learn a lot more about editing and modifying shapes down the road, but I think as a basic tool, being able to hold the shift key to make perfect circles, or if you want to make a perfectly square box, you can do that with the same rectangle tool and just holding the shift key. So it should be pretty straightforward. I think you guys can use that pretty effectively to make backgrounds and backdrops of things, and it should be a pretty efficient way to try out a couple ideas that we've kind of avoided in the past. To go with that shape tool, if you end up doing what I did there, I've got multiple shapes on one layer. You do have another thing, this little black arrow should allow you to target these various shapes and just delete them. So you can kind of create multiple shapes on one kind of color value area. So it's kind of a different one. You might take a little bit getting used to, but I think it can work out pretty good. Okay, the last thing I want to talk to you about is something called styles. I think it's one of the coolest things about Photoshop in the last few generations. And that gives you the ability to quickly make things look a lot more stylish. Hence the name Styles. Let me pull up my Styles window here. Here's my Styles window. Let me pull that down so I can see that a little bit better. And I'll quickly demonstrate that for you real fast by, the layer that I had here a second ago. I've got this little circle layer. That I can give it a little bit more exciting look by clicking on this shape, some of these styles that are in my shape area. Basically what happens, any shapes that you have or any pixel areas that you have on a document are going to get replaced with whatever style kind of concept are part of these styles. And I don't have that many options here, but I'm going to show you a major part of Photoshop in getting in more options for your libraries when it comes to colors or styles or swatches. You're going to see this a lot. But there's an options area of your window here, and I can go down and I can pull up different selections for different types of styles. So I'm going to hit append, and that's going to add to my current selection, and then I have other ways I can, other options to choose from. But that one again is this little option area, and you've got multiple different libraries that can pop up. And most of your windows, when it comes to colors and brushes and all kinds of different effects in Photoshop, have options that you can, dig into to get more patterns and things of this nature. So anyway, let me get one more of these, and you can kind of see. But usually I'll hit append, and append means to add to instead of hit OK. OK would replace it, and you get just a smaller assortment. So here's append. You can kind of see. Now I got all kinds of crazy ones I can use. So these are pretty cool to play with. Now the other thing you can do with these too, I'm going to go ahead and target my text layer, my title. It says Photoshop Basics. I think this is a great way to add a little pizzazz when it comes to working with text. If you click on one of these options here, you can sometimes get a pretty unique look that'll work out pretty well for you. We have another lesson we'll explore later on controlling these options and really getting to fine-tune how these effects are applied. But for now, it's a pretty good way to kind of get used to it. So anyway, I think with those basic ideas, you'll be well on your way to making some of your own projects. I'm going to give you guys the next piece of instruction here. It's going to show you how to copy and paste images so you can work on your own postcard project. That'll be your first little kind of demo project. So let's do that real fast. Let me show you how to copy things off the internet as far as images. So let's see, here's a surfer girl I was using earlier. I found her typically, like a lot of our images, I use a Google search. So if I'm searching for a particular subject, and you'll find I like to look at surfing stuff, you can put in your keyword there and then go to the images part. And we want to, if you go to an image, you might want to follow your link all the way to the full-size image. And then you can right-click. Here's the key trick to it. Right-click and copy image. And then back in Photoshop, you can paste. Excuse me. Edit, paste. You would think there would be an option to right-click and paste, but there is not. So you got to go back up to menu commands, or you have to use Command V to paste things in there. But let's go ahead and use our move tool, and I'll show you how that worked out. So I've got my layer that I've already put in there. Here's another surfer guy. And all the things you want to do for your project, you'll be able to do pretty much with this idea. If you can add text, pictures, and shapes, you have a pretty good chance of making a pretty cool little postcard project. So, don't forget about the things we talked about before. The free transform tool and the move tool and creating text. You can do some pretty cool stuff. So when you start this project, what I want you guys to do is go to File, New, and I want you to switch this where it says pixels. We're going to talk inches. It'll be a little bit easier to understand at this point. And we're going to make a 3x5 postcard. So the width is going to be 5 inches. The height is going to be 3 inches. And the resolution, for anything you want to print out, I'd probably say if you're going to print it, you probably should have at least 150 to turn out pretty decent. And then we typically use RGB color settings here. So those are the ones you want to check out. But if you're talking inches and resolution, we'll get into more of that later. But 72 for website stuff and 150 for basic printing. High quality printing, we'll have to talk about that later. But anyway, that'll get you started. And you can just do what I did before. You can copy an image, you can paste it in there. I'm going to use Command V to paste it this time. And then move tool to move it around, Command T to resize, rotate, all that kind of business. And see if you can make yourself a little postcard, welcome to Hawaii, or my trip to Tahoe, anything you want. But combine text and pictures together. One last thing to mention is you have a background layer. This is one of my favorite tricks too, I should have mentioned earlier. But if you have a background layer that's, in this case, solid white, that was what we built when we first created this new file, you can double click on this layer area. So I'm going to double click right where it says background. If I double click there, it's going to let me rename this layer, and more importantly, it's going to take off my little lock symbol here. So when I unlock a background layer, it's now I can edit it, I can do all the things I would normally do to a layer. But since it's filled with white, this is my cool little trick here, is you can apply one of these styles to it pretty easily. So if you're trying to make a cool kind of a background to something, this is a pretty good way to make something that get you off to a pretty fast start. So anyway, you might try this out, see if you can find some cool pictures off the internet, paste them in there, experiment with some text, and see if you can come up with your own basic kind of postcard. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but hopefully you can kind of see the idea here. It should be pretty easy to come up with your own kind of cool little demo file. If you want to print it out, go for it. But that's what we're after. Okay, good luck.